From Studio A at the USC Annenberg Media Center, this is your host Aditi Jain from the Paradigm Podcast. Today, we're talking about an industry that affects every family in some way, eldercare. It's an area that's highly regulated and emotionally charged. Every decision impacts real people, and yet the systems behind the scenes are still stuck in the 90s. My guests today are the founders of Nara, a startup building an ambient AI platform that automates senior care operations so care managers can spend more time caring, not documenting. They were an SEP with me last semester, which is a startup incubator on campus, and they've already partnered with large senior living networks like Momentum and JFS Care. We're going to dive into their story, how they started Nara as college students, what it's like to build in a space that's both deeply human and deeply regulated, and how they're using AI to bring compassion back into care. Welcome, Philip and Grishma. Welcome, Grishma and Philip. Thank you for coming onto the podcast. Can you guys both give a little introduction of yourself?
Yeah, my name is Philip Hannon. I'm originally from Chicago, currently a sophomore here at USC studying business and soon to be econ and math. For the last couple of years, I've run a sales agency selling high-ticket surfboards. This summer, I did 6 figures in revenue, but for the last 7 months, more importantly, I've been running a startup here with Grishma in health tech.
Hi, I'm Grishma. I'm a junior studying electrical and computer engineering at USC Viterbi. This past summer, I was interning with Lockheed Martin. In the spring, I'll be with SpaceX. And yeah, I've been here with Philip and Radin running Nara for the past couple months.
Awesome. So excited to have you guys. Now we'll just go into like the origin story of Nara and kind of what your mission is. So you said that eldercare is stuck in the 90s. What moment or experience made you realize that this was a problem you wanted to fix?
I think a specific moment is kind of our first customer story, like our first person that we were building a product for. I just remember him showing us the workflow that what their workflow looked like at the company, and it was just simply very archaic. It was very disorganized, and I think that kind of multiplied into the problems that they saw at the company, specifically not being able to manage caregivers very well, losing caregivers, month to month, and just kind of the ripple effects of being very unorganized with their systems.
Yeah, I think I know exactly what moment you're talking about when we had one of our customer discovery calls. The person we were calling, he was showing us like internal details of how they run, and it was like Excel spreadsheets and WhatsApp group chats and copy pasting and papers here and there and everywhere. And it was really shocking that like there's no way our home care industry is being run like this. And it is. And we say home care is stuck in the 90s because from multiple different sources, like verbatim, that's what we've heard. When we were first being introduced into like these big EMRs like Well Sky and Point Click Care, I don't know if I should say those names, but different people have said, yeah, the UI is stuck in the 90s. And we can get more into that too.
No, I totally relate to that. When you guys were building Nara, I was building a health tech startup, and we were essentially trying to automate data entry into EMR systems. And so we got to experience building with so many different EMR systems. And obviously a lot of hospitals, they have to use legacy software, and it's hard for them to switch into like something newer. But I did realize like how fragmented the system is and how important it is for our generation to kind of go in and fix that. So you guys are doing really good work. And also the senior care space doesn't always get as much attention as flashy AI or consumer tech. So why specifically this space for you guys?
I think for me, like I've had, all my grandparents have either lived in their home alone and kind of have struggled on their own, or they've lived in an assisted living community, or they've had an in-home caregiver. And I think there's just a lot of fundamental problems. Caregivers aren't paid very much, meaning that they don't really like performing their job. Like there's not much reason for them to care too much about their job. And I think there's just a lot of fundamental problems. But additionally, from like a business perspective, I think there's a lot of opportunity to capitalize in the industry because there's no one, young and tech-driven like us that's willing to build solutions. And there's less competition in, say, eldercare than building in like broad technology.
Yeah, a couple of things on my side as well. Like we got into eldercare because of Philip's experiences, and thinking back, like I also had experiences with in-home care and seeing, the difficulties of caregiving. So I also had some sort of personal connection. We started with, Philip's entry into the industry, and then the second thing is, I guess I'm a big believer that I feel like passion can be built. Like I think you can be very intentional about what you're passionate about. That might be controversial, but as we explored the industry more and more, again, like the client calls we had, the more we saw the industry, the more frustrated personally I got at look, like this is not real. And so I think that just made all of us fall down like this rabbit hole of, okay, like I really want to build in this industry because it's so far behind. And I think part of the allure for me, again, for this industry is because it's not so flashy, because there's not so much technology and AI in the industry, that I want to help bring it up to speed.
Yeah, it's a very like undersaturated market, and everyone wants to do AI, B2B, SaaS, but like no one wants to, actually make a big difference. So that's cool.
Yeah. I think we originally started because of like all these personal reasons, but
Yeah.
now like we're actually nerds about, integrating into the EMR
Yeah.
or like providing solutions, whatever, because you're like effectively helping these nurses and these caregivers save literally hours every single day. Because instead of doing manual entry into the EMR or manual note taking, like they can now call a couple care recipients that they really care about, or like onboard a couple new care recipients that they would have not been able to otherwise. So I think it also affects people's lives in a valuable way.
Yeah. So actually, I don't think we touched upon like what actually like what the workflow is behind Nara. So how does it kind of work? And also, how did the idea for Nara evolve from kind of concept to what it is today? Was there a specific moment of validation that made you say like, okay, this is real? So kind of just like going from like concept to what it is today and how it works. It's kind of a broad question.
Yeah, it's pretty broad, but I feel like we're constantly evolving. I mean, we started from like just we initially weren't even B2B, we were B2C. We were trying to target caregivers because we're like, oh, like a note taker because caregivers are so hands-on, details get left down, they can't write stuff down. We started with that. Then we became like a client to caregiver matching feature that agencies use. And I very distinctly remember the like when the light bulb went off for that particular feature, because we still have that as part of Nara today. We were all like sitting in a car. We were talking to one of our CD guys, and he was like, "Yeah, guys, like you guys are gonna love this one. Like this is a huge problem. We spend hours doing this matching, and we never really get to personalize." The matching between clients and caregivers. So I remember that was the turning point for that feature. But since then, we've, worked throughout the summer. We've evolved a lot. We have a lot more features and a lot more value prop. I think you can branch off here, but I forgot what I was gonna say. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think we're doing two things. One is we're building like custom automations for companies, trying to see where we can provide value and if like what we're building is scalable in the future, or maybe it's just one tailored solution for a specific client. But one thing we have kind of found like product market fit in is our ambient scribe, which records care consultations between whoever is doing this care consultation and the care recipient. So maybe it's a registered nurse, maybe it's a caregiver. They're coming to someone's house who's about to start receiving, care in their home, and they ask them 30 pages of questions. And historically, they've, taken notes on, 30 pages of documents, and then they've gone and they've updated the EMR based on what they captured with those notes. But what Nara does is it allows you to record that consultation, be fully present with who you're talking to. So rather than, sitting behind a notebook asking questions to a care recipient and their family, you can simply just sit back and record and be fully present. And then following that, you can stop recording. the entire care plan is made, which is a document that outlines what care will look like for a given care recipient. So, so-and-so needs help in the shower, they need groceries, weekly, they take these medications, whatever. And then furthermore, again, that information is updated into the EMR, and also any compliancy documentation is also generated. So stuff that needs to be sent to insurance companies or the state, that is generated. And typically that process takes a couple hours to create all this documentation, to add stuff to the EMR. But with Nara, it happens pretty quickly.
That's awesome.
And I think, sorry, one more thing. I think one moment of validation was actually this week. I cold emailed someone, showed them the demo. We hopped on a call. They agreed to use it. And then also after that, he DM'd me on LinkedIn and he's like, "You're on to something big here." So I think that was good. And this is an agency owner. So I thought that was a good moment of validation.
That's really big. So kind of moving on to our next section, which is building as college founders. And I think what you said just ended with really easily moves on to this. So you're college students building in a highly regulated, also like emotionally charged industry. So what has that been like with like compliancy things and stuff like that?
It's annoying to be blunt. We started in an incubator here. It was 10 weeks. It was called SCP. We'll go into that later maybe. But everyone was pushing us to move faster and to, ship things quicker and to iterate. But everyone else was building, maybe B2C or like B2B, but it wasn't in a regulated industry. And, we were providing healthcare solutions. So it was really frustrating not being able to ship because, we needed to be HIPAA compliant, or we needed, people were resistant to use what we were building because we were college students and we didn't really know too much about healthcare at the time. So I think it's frustrating in that. But it's really rewarding when now we do have solutions that are, compliant and customers are willing to use our platform. Because previously we went through like a huge struggle to get people to even try what we were building. So.
Yeah, I think the healthcare industry, home care industry is just very slow moving as a whole. So that was really frustrating when you're talking about regulations and HIPAA. It's like a lot of the mindsets that like of the people we talked to was like, hey, it works, our methods work, but they're not able to see that, hey, it's not sustainable, it's not reliable. It may be working for now, but it's not something that you can see continuing on into the future. And so we did come across a lot of closed-minded people who just like, no matter what you say, they're just not going to accept new technology. And there's people on the other end of the spectrum who are like, that we've met, like Rich from Palace Care. He's so open to technology. He's always trying to see how can we incorporate technology into home care, elder care. And so there's just people like all over the spectrum. And I think you have to find your fit of people, and that's just going to take time. And a second thing, to touch on a point of being students, I mean, we're at USC and we're lucky enough that I think USC's gerontology school is like #1 in the country or something. So being students has actually really helped us. Yes, we have to manage classes, but we've met a lot of good people, made a lot of great connections through like conferences that are held here at USC. Today at 4:00, one of the connections we met through USC, we're going to another conference nearby. And then Momentum Senior Living, one of our biggest clients, we have a strong connection with them because the CEOs and the owners of the agency are two professors at USC. And so, yeah, just being here in college, surrounded by even other students who are building, other age tech founders, other builders, has just been really motivating as well.
Yeah, I know. Like USC has so many great entrepreneurship clubs. Everyone's just always building here. There's great founders that come out of USC. So it's a great place to be building something as college students. But kind of like touching more, you already talked a little bit about this, but what are your biggest challenges in kind of like earning credibility with enterprise clients as a young team? Sort of what are the steps you take for like our audience that maybe they're college students and they want to build something? How do you guys kind of earn credibility?
Go ahead.
I think the biggest way to earn credibility is because you're so small and you're so lean, you're able to be there for the client pretty much every day. And you can also tailor the solutions that you're building to their needs rather than, if you're a really big company and you're working with another really big company, things move very slowly. It's slow to iterate. If they want something changed, it might take weeks or months. But if you're a team of three, you can change it in a matter of a couple days. So that's really attractive to these companies. And I think that's generally how we get our foot in the door.
hmm I would also add that credibility is also just numbers. It's really, really hard to get your first foot in the door. But once you get that first client, you can start seeing the stats. You can start, gaining that evidence to then use that for, selling to other clients.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And sort of like, why have you kept your team lean? I mean, that makes sense that you want to, tailor your product to different clients, but have you ever thought about maybe expanding the team?
Yeah, we've been having those conversations recently. Yeah, I think just engineering power as we grow more and more, we're getting more and more traction, more interest. And that means a lot of personalization still, because that's something we want to keep as one of our higher priorities to make sure that, hey, you have this problem that we're actually solving for, not just, hey, here's a bunch of features, pick what you want. So we're trying to be very hyper personalized and targeted in our solutions. So that obviously entails a lot of engineering power. So I think we are actually thinking of expanding and getting more.
Yeah, that makes sense. So now I kind of want to pivot more into the tech behind Nara. So can you walk us through what Nara's ambient AI agent actually does? And Philip talked a little bit about that, but kind of what's happening under the hood and when a care manager hits record.
Yeah, so if we talk about our care plan creation feature, they hit record, and pretty much for the user, that's all we want them to do. We want them to hit record and just go about their consultation, no note taking, nothing, right? So if I'm having a conversation with you, I don't have to worry about, oh, will I remember this detail that you're allergic to peanuts or something. On the back end, what we do is we start transcribing this conversation, and we start pretty much using AI to extract insights, keeping track of any of your important information, but not just like health and medical, or like, oh, you have knee pain, or, whatever it is. We want to keep track of your preferences as well, whether that's political or anything that will help us to, if we want to match you with a caregiver in the future, we want to be able to use that holistic information to just serve you better. And so, yeah, we pretty much take the recording, transcribe it, extract insights. And we'll take all the factual information, enter that into the EMR with our AI agent. And yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. And then also, like, you talked a little bit about the automation process. So how do you think about balancing automation with human empathy? Because especially in something as personal as caregiving and, matching these people.
I guess what we're doing, like, we're automating a lot of like the back end administrative work. But we're never gonna replace a caregiver. A caregiver's job is very emotional, and it's impossible to replace. And so we're automating a lot of the back end work just so they can do their jobs better. And again, like one of our clients, his name is Ben Mack at Jewish Family Services. We pitched to him in person, and he told his team, hey, if we use this technology, like now all of you guys, instead of doing paperwork in the back end, you can call a couple people that you really care about that we take care of, or you can onboard and take care of a couple new care recipients going forward. So our job is not to replace anyone. It's really just to automate some of these back end processes that take time away from what they truly are there for, which is delivering high quality care.
And I would say we three do believe that the core of this industry, eldercare, home care, is the people. We're not trying to, as Philip said, we're not trying to replace the people. We don't see any value in that. We do want to make the quality of those human interactions better, which is why we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah. And AI is obviously, its use cases are just increasing. And I think this is a great way to leverage AI. And for the people that, are kind of closed off to using like an AI-based product, like they just need to understand that AI can be used for
Yeah.
good as well.
I
Um,
I do want to like say something to that point is that like I think what people don't realize when with AI in this sort of field is the amount of personalization that we can do, because what gets lost when if I'm a caregiver, I'm trying to take care of you, but I have these 100 things like in the back of my mind. Hey, I have to write this down, then I have to send this paper, and then I have to, even if I'm not doing that currently, that's still running through my head, right? So we want to take that noise away from people's minds. And then also, again, like going back to the client caregiver matching feature, there's so much personalization that AI allows us to do that, hey, yes, we're looking at location. Hey, yes, we're looking at availability, and we will match on that, obviously. But there's all these other things that allow us to make just a stronger match. So yeah, there's just a lot of area for personalization and like just making things more robust with AI.
Yeah, and I kind of want to touch a little bit on the HIPAA compliancy stuff again. So, handling sensitive data brings a lot of ethical and compliance responsibility. So, how do you approach HIPAA compliance and data privacy as a startup?
I think it's twofold. I think number one, in the case of our features, it's both what happens physically in person as well as what happens technologically in your backend. So first of all, like we're recording conversations of care recipients and their families. Obviously, there's a lot of health information that is sensitive that cannot be revealed with a tie to their first and last name. And so the first part for us is getting confirmation from them that they agree to be recorded, not just the care recipient, but also their family, and also disclosing like what the purposes of that of the recording is for. And in our case, it's generally just collecting information to build the care plan, to build documentation, and to add information to the EMR. And then secondly, it's making sure that your backend is fully HIPAA compliant. So any tools that you're using, such as an LLM, you need to send a business associates agreement to the company that you're using for your LLM, Anthropic, OpenAI, whatever, agreeing to be HIPAA compliant with them. In our case, also our browser agent is HIPAA compliant. Our backend, how we host things, everything has to be HIPAA compliant. So again, it's a mix of both the technology that you're using as well as what's happening in real life.
Yeah, no, that was a great answer. Um, so let's like shift gears and talk about a little bit about building a business as a student. So, what advice do you have for other founders trying to build socially impactful companies that are also sustainable businesses?
Oh, that's a good one. Um,
I think really tapping into communities. For us, like we would not be continuing to build if we hadn't run into people at the gerontology school, people at Age Tech Atlanta, which is like a community that we're a part of. I think in any business, like you need a community around you to keep you going, and I think especially in the case of like businesses that impact that increase the well-being of people. I think generally these communities are very helpful and they're very motivational, and they keep you going more so than businesses that are solely based in making a lot of money. And so I would say finding a community that can keep you going.
I agree. And I would say that for my piece of advice, if you're focusing on being socially impactful, I think it's really easy to get carried away, especially like in our situation, being around tech, being around builders, being around B2B SaaS and startup founders. It's really easy to get carried away with what's flashy and what looks cool and like, hey, let's add this feature, or we can solve this with that or that. And I think it's really, really important to stick to the problem. And I think I remember one of the workflows we built for Momentum Senior Living, like it's not an exciting workflow, it's not like something flashy. Like if you explain it, it's like, okay, whatever. Like it's solving a problem, but it's not flashy. I'm sorry, but like,
Yeah.
um, and I think there is a lot of value in just being able to, take that initially, like, hey, I'm not building something super that I can just like talk to all my friends about, but at least you know that you're solving a problem. And I think that's the place to start. And this came up, like, I wanted to say this before as well, but how we got into Momentum was obviously initially they're USC professors, so we had some connections there. But I remember they just mentioned like one of their problems, right? That like, hey, we have this finance database fragmented, blah 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 problem, and we're like, okay, we'll build it to you. And I think it goes to that credibility question as well. How did we build credibility? Because they mentioned that problem, and then we built the solution for them. And so yeah, I just all that to say, stick to the problem. Don't get caught up in what's flashy.
Yeah, and I feel like I've noticed this trend of people just like jumping like ship and like, okay, I'm gonna solve this problem because it sounds really flashy. Then I'm like, wait, oh, okay, this is not sounding as flashy anymore. Let me go to the next problem. But they forget that the point of like building a startup is to solve a problem. And I think being an entrepreneur is the fastest way to get closer to solving the problem as you can get. And you guys are doing an amazing job. And then talking a little bit more about community, you guys talked about, being part of USC and like being at a school where the gerontology school is like number one. But also you guys we were all a part of SEP last semester. So how did that environment shape the way you think about startups and scaling? And also for context, Philip's also leading Founders Education this semester, which is a 10-week curriculum where they essentially help you go from idea to a full product and demo day, which is going to be very soon. But yeah, Philip, if you want to talk a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, so we went through Founders Education last semester. It's a 10-week program going 0 to 1, finding an industry to build in, doing a lot of customer discovery, finding out what the fundamental problems are within the industry, and then building a solution and pitching it to investors. This year it's December 2nd at Marshall, if anyone wants to come. I think, obviously, I would have never met my co-founders if it weren't for SEP, so that's one thing. But I think additionally, like, again, there is just a huge urgency to continue to build and to continue to iterate and to continue to talk to your customers. And I think especially in an industry like healthcare, you have to move really, really quickly. And you have to have this sense of urgency. Otherwise, nothing's going to get done. We have to continually check up on our clients, continually, email them, text them. Otherwise, they miss a meeting, we miss a meeting, and nothing gets done. Whereas I think in other industries, maybe it's a little bit slower and laid back. And so I think SEP forced us to move really, really quickly, and we wouldn't be here without that urgency.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I would say customer discovery, like that was like in theory, like I knew like, okay, yeah, like you have to like talk to people or whatever, but I really appreciate how much SEP enforced, hey, you have to do these many CD calls every week, you have to look at whatever, pick an industry and dive deep into it, or a couple industries, whatever. And like starting from the problem, I think was very, very valuable, because again, I don't think we would have ended up with Eldercare maybe if we hadn't started with all those CD calls. So
yeah, I totally agree. I think it was like 50 calls per week or like 30. Yeah. It was like a good amount, and I think I did customer discovery in so many different spaces. I feel like I got to, even though I didn't end up building like in a particular space, I got to learn about that. There is a lot of pain points if you were to solve problems. There are a ton of problems that you can solve out there. So that's awesome. So just coming back to Nara, what's next for Nara? Where do you see it evolving in the next year, 2 years? What's the unicorn vision, I guess?
So last week we onboarded a client in Jewish Family Services, and then this week we I guess not onboarded. We signed them on, and then as of this week we landed another 2 locations at another home health, home care company in Virginia. Sorry, I keep looking over there. I should look over.
No, you're all
Yeah.
And so now we have to provide that solution for them starting next Monday. And so I think right now it's just continuing with the features that we already provide and really growing and landing more clients. And I think in the future we have some other goals, but I'll let
Yeah, we've spoken again. We've talked
Mhm.
about this in the last couple of days. What is our unicorn vision? And something that's come up is we don't want people in the industry, caregivers, nurses, agency owners, staff, whatever. We don't want them to deal with any paperwork, any sort of busy work. Filling out compliance forms, making a care plan, whatever, etc., etc. We don't want that to be a requirement. We want them just to focus on the people.
Yeah. That sounds great. And sort of you already touched upon this, but when you think about Nara's long-term legacy, what do you hope people will say about what you built? If there is like a sentence or yeah.
Legacy? Wait,
Yeah.
repeat the question.
Yeah, like when you think about Nara's long-term legacy,
Mhm.
what do you hope people will say about what you built?
I don't know if it's one sentence. I think it's testimonials from care managers, from caregivers. And again, I already mentioned this, but Ben, when he met Ben Mack, JFS Care, one of our clients, when he mentioned like, hey, now you guys can check up on a few new care recipients. You can call a couple new people. I think that's really what it's all about. Is again allowing caregivers, care managers, and generally anyone in elder care, allowing them to focus on the people and not so much the paperwork.
Yeah, I would say in a sentence, I would want people to be like, these guys can do anything.
Mm-hmm.
If you can think it, Nara can do it.
That's awesome. So kind of wrapping things up, Philip, you're leading FE this semester. So kind of some advice for our audience that you've been giving the new cohort as well. Like, what do you like reiterate every day? Or like, what is one piece of advice that you would want to end off this podcast with for student builders?
I think take advantage of being a student and having a college email. We've attended countless events that are thousands of dollars to attend, and we've gone in for free just by being, hey, we're a student, we'll help clean up at the end or whatever. We're talking at a big assisted living conference at one of the nicest hotels in San Diego. It's all paid for. This is in March. We got that from simply being a student. We've talked to hundreds of people in the industry simply by saying, hey, we're a curious USC student that wants to talk to you for 20 minutes. I think really utilizing your USC email or just your college email in general, because I think you only have that for 4 years. And after that, you're in the real world and no one is going to really give a darn about talking to you. So yeah, really utilize that college email and take advantage of being a student while you can.
Yeah. Do you have any advice, Grishma?
Advice.
Last piece of advice. Yeah.
I think it's all covered.
Yeah. Wait, okay. Thank you guys so much for coming on. I think this was a great conversation, and our audience will really enjoy listening to this podcast. So, yeah, thank you.
Sweet. Thank you.
Thank you.